Even though Lev put me in a certain place, I'm not going to listen to him.
That's where we left off.
Too bad for you. Okay. We're tough Resh Tzadik. Now, okay. Kaira Adamas HaMegillah Ben Aymed Ben Yoshev Aval Yikra B'Tzibur Yoshev L'Chatchila M'Pnei Koved Tzibur. I'm going to start with the last part. There's this halacha of Koved Tzibur. Koved Tzibur means that a person is in Tzibur. Tzibur deserves respect, and for you to sit down is improper cover for the tzibur, and I guess the place that comes to mind the strongest of this, and yeshiva based on mikdash alab machos based on bavad. No, it's you're the base of mikdash. You know.
Did on the base of mikdash, or did on the tzibur? That was the holiness of the place.
Yeah, but there's deference for based David. Mm-hmm. But you know, it's to stand you're in a place that has kedusha, so you don't. Sitting down is not at attention.
Not koved tzibur.
So no, and not koved tzibur means that you're in a casual pose. You're supposed to learn Torah only standing.
Oh, the Rav is saying the position of sitting in the position.
Yes, sitting is relaxed. Okay. Look, all of you people look like you're being kind relaxed. Yeah. What?
So do we know if he actually read the Megillah in the Beit Mikdash? Is it written anywhere?
I have no idea. I don't know. I was standing next to my yeshiva not long ago. Actually, I was standing next to him last night, but I was standing next to him about 6 months ago, and somebody asked my yeshiva, did they daven the Beis HaMikdash? So I was about to answer, and I figured I know exactly what she was going to say, and he beat me to it. I wasn't going to interrupt him, but he beat me to it. Ki beisi, beis tefillah koreh l'chol ha'amim. So what happens when such things happen, this is a lesson in human nature. That's like called you've been had. That's like you're called an amoritz, right? Because you don't even know what you know, right? So what people usually do when that happens is they try to bail themselves out, and they just bury themselves deeper, right? When you hear that kind of an answer to your question, what you're supposed to do is stop and think, not respond. And this guy just responded. And Marashivich very gracefully responded to his ludicrous response. But yes, of course they daven in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, how did they daven? What format did they daven? The Beis HaMikdash Rishon was also based tefillah, and non Knesset Hagdolah wasn't there yet. So tefillah was not formal, in the same way that it is today. The Megillah, I don't know that has anything to do with davening. I would like to introduce to you something that you know. I'm right now quoting a tshuva, if I'm not mistaken, of Menashe Klein. There are others who have a different answer to this question. I believe his answer is the most interesting. We lein Megillas Rus, we lein Megillas Shira Shirim, Koheles. You're familiar with that? It's not. When I was a kid, we did this too. We didn't do it from a ksav. When do you do that? When? Before leining. When do we lein the Megillah? After leining. So what's the reason why? Because v'nahapachu, right? But obviously that's not the reason. That's not the reason why, right? What is the reason why? It's not like a. That's a fascinating question. Any takers on the question?
You gave us a lead, right?
What?
Somehow it's related differently.
Yes. Okay. You're following this chess match. Okay. There's a klal. We'll just go back one step. I'll quote a tshuva nigas Moshe. those of us who daven nusach Ashkenaz, which it looks to me like 70% over here, you don't count. So is daven nusach Ashkenaz. So we say Hoshanis in Musaf. Sfard says Hoshanis in Shachris. So Rav Moshe has a tshuva. Why are there two different minhagim? And the answer is based on two different concepts that sometimes contradict each other. There's tader v'she'enu tader, and there's mitzvah baliyotcha. So if you're going to be taking the lulav and esrog, so then you should do a shanas already. You already have it. Do it all. But tader v'she'enu tader should demand that you do it after. And you should do it by musaf. So hence we have two different minhagim. Okay, that's easy. This which we say tader v'she'enu tader, that's only, and this is mavur in many places, when you have two things that are at the same level. Let's say tader v'she'enu tader, I use this example. I had once this question. I was at the end of one minyan, came towards the end of one minyan. I was waiting for the next minyan to start. There was still like 7 minutes left, and I wanted to say Kiddush Levana. She said, "You can't say Kiddush Levana. No, you didn't have a Mariv." So I said, "So it's Tader Shein Tader." Doesn't make a difference whether you're planning on doing it necessarily or not. We're telling you things have to be done in a certain order. Okay? Now,
So you can't do that.
Can't is the wrong word. You shouldn't. It's an infraction on the klal of tader v'she'enu tader. The word can't. I don't know that word. You did but you did it out of order. No, I don't know what the right adjective to say is. But you were not. You're supposed to do it in the other order. You did it wrong.
Even if there is a scheduled event, my was scheduled.
It was scheduled for 7 minutes from now.
Yes. No, the reason why it's tader she'enu tader is because there's deference given to the mitzvah that's tader. It's not because, in other words, similar concept, which people have this issue all the time. People have a Shabbos talis, and your Shabbos talis is behind your weekday talis, obviously, because on Friday you wore your weekday talis, and your Shabbos talis is behind it. It's be mavir nala mitzvah, even though I don't want that mitzvah. Who asked you? The Gemara in Yuma says, fascinating Gemara. The Gemara in Yuma says, "Kol pirashata poine yelo yelo yimin." So does this mean you're not allowed to make a left turn? Obviously not. Yet the Gemara in Yuma says, don't laugh, Yechiel. The Gemara in Yuma says that when the kohen goes up to the mizbeach to give his matan damim, so in a certain case he has to go to the tzad small. So the Gemara says then he has to go afterwards back to repay his chiyuv to kol pinos to go to the right. In other words, kol pinos doesn't just mean that when you have a question, opt for that direction. It means that there's a chashivas to the yamin over the left, and you made an infraction on that when you didn't do it. A fascinating idea, but that's the truth. I'm telling you that's the way it is for real. Anyways,
Well, we have a call that certain things you can't do before Mara, but if you're going to have a set minion, you can do them.
We're going to take care of that in a minute. This which we say that tader she'enu tader tader koydem, that's if you have two things that are on the equal level. If you have two totally different things, according to some, one's a deraisa, one's a derabanan, you don't say tader she'enu tader, because they exist on different planes. Kol shekain, when you have something which is a minig and one is a halacha, you don't say tader she'enu tader, because they never see each other. So therefore, Now you know the answer. No, you haven't figured it out yet?
Yes,
So therefore, there's a difference, Mahuti, between Megillas Rus and Megillas Esther. Megillas Rus, there's no ksiv to do. Megillas Esther, there is. So therefore, Megillas Esther, Tader R'sheino Tader, you do it after davening. Whereas Megillas Rus, which is no ksiv to do it, you don't have to wait till after davening.
So it was I wouldn't say lack of chasivus, but his lower level, if you will, is just being a minhag allowed him to go
This
first.
is the aside. This is the aside of I'm quoting more or less Lubavitcher Rebbe. What I'm telling you right now, this is his analogy. A ghost cannot crack a nut open. Why can't the ghost crack a nut open? Because he goes through it. He can't. You like that? It's an interesting thought.
What does that have to do with it? I missed it.
It's because his level, what he's speaking about, is something ruchni, cannot be shoiver klipas. Only something gashmi can. So the more magushim you are, the more of the klipas you can dispel. And that's why today's generation is able to do certain things in ruchnius that previous generations weren't able to do. Because we're so bad that we're good. It's a very Chabadsker thought for those who follow that line of religion. Anyways, so what was your question?
But why still put it first? Even though...
Because it's chaviv.
Oh, because it's
Yeah. Yeah.
but the leining versus the Rabbanan.
So even a minhag, so you're allowed to do the minhag. This saying, Rus is a minhag. It's only a minhag. Don't ask me. I could say Shechianu. I can make a brocha Shechianu. So it's also on Megillah. That we spoke about this on Shavuos night about 10 years ago, and I guess you can look it up on the library. Okay.
I'm sure I've seen some very, very frumish fuels. I remember particularly, I'm thinking of Rosh Hashanah, where they have a minhag.
I hope they were only in from shuls.
Yeah, where they have a minhag, and they put to my understanding, they put the minhag before the halacha. Like this is very yeshivish school, which stretches out the davening, and when the time comes to mincha, they've not yet started musaf. So they they don't do mincha and then musaf, they do musaf first, and then mincha afterwards.
This is a well-discussed issue.
Isn't that a minhag, yeshivish minhag, putting and pushing away?
This is a well-discussed issue, issue, and there are those who are makbid because it is to do. This is what's called in the yeshivish circles sheishoyes. Sheishoyes, this is what this is called. And this is a discussed issue, how much is musaf part of shacharis. Just to confuse you on the issue, just to understand this a bit, I'll just share with you another halacha which is about 5 months off, maybe 6 months off. There is a mistake that people have. I'm not right now discussing the general question of if you're allowed to eat before Tkiyas or not. I'm not discussing that question. Even if one is allowed to eat before Tkiyas, how much are you allowed to eat? So the Shulchan Aruch in Hilchos Shabbos discusses this issue. If any of you people have ever davened in ger, anybody ever davened in ger? What? They have a break and they have coffee and cake with no kiddush. No kiddush. They do before Kriyas HaTorah. Because they hold Kriyas HaTorah is part of Shacharis, and therefore you're not allowed to eat a Suda yet. So therefore you don't need to make Kiddush. And therefore you're allowed to have cake and coffee without Kiddush. It's like maddening. It's Klal Yisrael, huh? This is... now, but the halach in Shulchan Aruch is that a person is allowed to eat before Musaf, but he's not allowed to eat more than a kibetza. So those people who before Musaf have 10 ragalach, they have no leg to stand on. Just an interesting thought. Okay, if you could remind me, I'll try not to mention it before Rosh Hashanah. Anyways, but this is a question. So, go according to some that Musaf is already called. That's part of the regular Seder. I feel this is a discussed issue. We could get you a lot of marmakavas on that. Anyways, I don't know how we got into this. Let's get back to what we're supposed to be doing. A person is supposed to be leining the Megillah in a way that's mechubad, and that's by standing if he's doing it with tzibur. If a person's doing it by himself, he's able to do it sitting down as well.
About koreh or everyone?
We just spoke about both. Avam koreh b'tzibur, then lo yeshev because it's not covered at tzibur.
The tzibur shouldn't sit.
No. The baal koreh. Now there's a Mishnah Berurah here, a sharitzian, which is a very important sharitzian, and those who will take note will see on Eicha, Megillas Esther, Mitzvah Shem, you should never see this, but there's a Pri Megadim in Hilchos Pesach, which discusses which brachas have to be made by Amida and which brachas have to be made by Yeshiva. And the Pri Megadim says the all brachas have to be done in the format that the mitzvah is performed. And mitzvahs that are done can be done by Yeshiva, the bracha can be done by Yeshiva, and mitzvahs that are supposed to be done by Amida, so then the bracha which precedes them, which is part of it, we're getting involved in that, they should also be done in the same fashion. We are about to see a sharitzian which disagrees with this, and there's a lot of discussion about why it disagrees. Says Ben Yoshev, says the Mishnah Berurah, Mi'ah bracha yivarach ba'amida. Says the sharitzian, by machzah shekel, degam hashoymim habracha kiven de yitzin ha'yedei shmiya mishum shomeh ka'oineh tzrichim gam kein lamod. So he says the bracha has to be done by Amida, and even if you're not saying the bracha, you're only being yitz of the bracha, you still have an obligation to stand. And this flies in the face of the Pri Megadim, and there's a question why this is different, but I'm not getting involved. What happens, what you will see on by Eicha, Mitzvah Shem, you shouldn't see it, but what happens is people usually are sit down to hear Eicha, and there are always a few people that stand up for the bracha and then sit down. Why? Because like this Megillah, that Megillah is done. The bracha should be done by Amida.
I think you're about koreh sits for the bracha.
No, he doesn't. Not in this shul.
He
stands. He sits during the leining, but he stands for the bracha, and that has to do with this. That has to do with this concept over here. All right. Avalai yikra ritzan levdim kari batzibo tzarich likra ba'amida v'ayim bir halachas shetilana da'amina de smicha shari le'inyan Megillah. All right. I'm not going to get involved in that issue. Okay. Also lachazan lahitziat tzibor v'u inyan kovid. It's an inyan of kovid. Ve'ein where the other l'chal kovid la'atzmoi kol zman shelo chibduhu. If they didn't ask him to lein, he shouldn't have to do it. V'chol zeh be'eino kavu lakach. We're talking about a shliach tzibor. That's not a he's not. It's not his permanent position. Our shliach tzibur kavua shemiyu lakach ein tzarich lahamtin. He doesn't have to wait. He can go up and start right away. Afilu shnayim.
So if you know how to read it, and it's clear to you that nobody else knows how to read, you're supposed to wait till someone says, like you said,
Yes.
about koreh.
This is this week's parsha. This week's parsha, those who will read the piece that will come to what you call it in 3 days or whatever. This week's parsha is about Moshe Rabbeinu. He knew that he was supposed to go into the Beis Hamikdash, right?
Ohel Moed.
And the Ohel Moed, yeah, thank you. And yet he didn't go in without an invitation. Why is that?
I would have thought when it's dealing with Hashem, it's, you wait till you're invited. You don't just invite yourself to it. Even though he knows that you're supposed to go, but when you're talking to Hashem, you wait till he invites you.
Why?
Protocol.
Because the Shekhinah had just dwelt for the first time there,
Therefore,
and he didn't know that he had no reshut.
He knew that it was obvious that he was supposed to go in. It was obvious. But he also understood that as obvious as he's supposed to go in, there's a procedure of respect that's demanded. Okay? Now, when a person is doing something for the tzibur, even though that he knows that he's the only one that can do it, he should be asked by the tzibur to do it. You're not the baal bus on the tzibur. this is exactly the point. You're not the baal on the tzibur. The tzibur has to ask you. So usually there's a gabbai. The gabbai is the embodiment of the tzibur, but you're not the baal just because no one's here. That's called gaiva. It's mamish the same concept.
Everyone's waiting for Marav, and everyone's kind of looking over the shoulders and waiting for the guys. That's called the asking.
One second.
Yeah, we
Does this has?
that's right. Okay. Fine.
So we'll continue. Okay. Anyways, all right. This next halacha is a fascinating halacha. Sometimes there are heterim, and then there's sometimes that's what you should do. The heter sometimes is there to be used, and there's sometimes the heter is there if you'd like to use it. And you have to know which way it is. That's the subject that the next seif is grappling with. There's a fascinating halacha that trei kolos lo mishtoi. Now, I'm not sure I know what that means. I'm really not sure I know what it means. I know that if one goes to a beis medrash, that there's 100 people there learning, you hear your charusa perfectly. If you go to beis medrash, there's 5 people learning, you can't hear a blessed thing. Now, I'm not really sure exactly the scientific aspect of noise filtering.
White noise.
What? I know all the terms I know too. It doesn't really help, right? But these are the mitziases that we know. Now, when a person would like to hear 2 things, he's able to hear 2 things. In other words, a guy who's a music specialist, he can hear the stereo. No, to me, it's all one thing. I hear both things together. But then, no, and he can hear quadraphonic. He's a miyuchadik guy. Okay, all right. Different people are blessed with different talents, but I understand the concept, right? So if it's something that's chaviv to you, you can hear 2 things at once. If it's not chaviv to you, you can't hear 2 things at once. What does that mean? I'm not sure. And I'd like to explain what I don't know what it means. If I have 2 people singing a song as a duet, do I have a problem hearing them?
It's not about hearing them, it's distinguishing between them, which voice you're hearing.
And if I like both of them, or if I like the song,
But you're still not hearing the individuals.
so the Shulchan Aruch says not like you. This is the problem. This is the problem. No, so you've hit the jackpot or the booby trap. I don't know what you hit exactly. Okay, afilu shnaim, afilu asara, yichol mikroisa biyachad, v'yotzim heim, v'hashoyim mehem. Everybody's yotze, even though you hear 10 people laying the Megillah all at once. It sounds to me it's called a cacophony of noise, but you're yotze. Why? Because I hear each one.
You hear each word.
You could say what you want.
Why is that?
Let's read.
Okay.
Let's read.
Okay.
You can say what you want. I've been here before, today. Not even such a long time ago. Yitzim heim v'lo yaminu detrei kola mishtami shaper kiraminu lein kriyas hatayra v'shar duchte the kriyazo chaviva v'yisim mepnei hanes. Okay, v'yov daite lishmoa heitev v'kivan shekein pashatu. Obviously, if you feel that you're not up to the challenge, it doesn't work. It's not halacha. It's just we're assuming that way. Now,
Maybe if you talk to Ken here, it didn't work anymore.
yeah, right. It's not halacha that you're automatically yaitzu. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying that you can hear it. Okay, 1 second. Where's the? Oh.
Other times, if you did hear, it's still puzzled because you heard it from too many. Here,
Right. Here we say, we dictate. In the negative, we dictate. Say, you cannot hear.
No, even if I said here, you.
Right. Okay. All right. So this is the concept. You hear from both people, and you hear each one individually, and you have that. There's some whatchamacallit over here. Here's the Sha'ar Tzion. Mevur b'lashon ha'machaber, she'afilu lechatchila yicholim likra kama b'nei adam b'vasachas. This is not a b'diavad. Lechatchila. So what does this mean? You're sitting next to a guy, and he thinks that he's the on deck to be the next baal koreh for the Megillah, and he's doing it aloud, and the only thing he's doing is annoying you, right? Okay? And you tell him, please be quiet, I can't hear. So he says to you, you're not B'kairis, right? What do you mean you can't hear? Trei koile mishtoi by Mikra Megillah, right? Right? So, but the Maisa, is there anything wrong with somebody saying it along out loud? Or not? So the Shartzion suggests that it's muter lechatchila. V'cheinu gam loshen habraysa v'aydav chavala v'chein mavur oy b'yosem b'teisefta v'mavur v'sugi Rosh Hashanah lein shtei chatzotzes v'natztodim k'fi maskanos hagemara sham da'ayli dechaviva yoev daita. Okay, v'chein barash v'varam b'sugi the Megillah. Okay, b'loshen harambam mashma l'chor d're'im b'di'eved ma'isinan haydina. This that we say shtei koile mishtoi, that's not that's the proper way to do it. If you heard it, you could assume that you heard everything. Gadol korim katan v'ayin sham demashva da'afilu lechatchila v'chem mur b'yosem Megillah v'kepashin b'asisin dektani korushnayim yotzu. It says if two people laying then yotza, which is mashma b'diavad, but you shouldn't be doing it two people together. U'brayse d'amar afilu asara near the garse sham yotzu. But not that you should do it. V'achach masasi shekenu gis Rabbeinu Chanano lefi zeh tzarich leimar legabi shofar she'tiu trei koili af lechatchila mishum de mitzvasa b'kach v'tzarich ian. So the bottom line is we're having a shaila if it's lechatchila or b'diavad, and I have difficulty understanding what the subject is. Do you hear or don't you hear? There's not much wiggle room here, right? If I'll say that b'diavad your yaitza, so then why can't I do it lechatchila? Okay, this is a question, and I'll just like to add, to make matters worse and bring this to a Purim thing. If you have everybody leining the Megillah together, isn't that more Pesum and Isa? Wouldn't that be preferred? What are you laughing about? What? It says not like that.
I understand.
Why would it be more Pesum and Isa?
Were you ever in the Churva Shul for Hallel? Anybody here was ever in the Churva Shul for Hallel? Could you hear Trei Kolei Mishtoi?
One beautiful sound.
Okay. All right. Anyways, but what's clear from here? What's clear from here is that Trei Kolei does not mean that I hear a duet. It means I hear the single voices individually. Right? To hear two voices together, what you're talking about, that it's a no-brainer. Everybody can hear two people singing together. But to be able to hear each one individually when two people are talking, that's like hearing your chavrusa, though there's another guy talking to his chavrusa on the other side of you.
Yeah, I would distinguish if the two are saying the same thing together or they're saying two different things. If they're really singing together or talking exactly together, I don't know how you can distinguish. When they're saying different things, you can't. When they're saying he'd be mad, I'm not saying Achashverosh, you can hear one of them.
I'll tell you something. If one was a baritone and the other one wasn't, you wouldn't ask this question, right? Even though they're saying the same thing. True or not true?
True.
Okay? So if I would like, I could listen, the pitch of my voice and the pitch of your voice is different, and a person who would want to, if he's interested, he can single it out. We have the ability to single out noise. I will quote Peretz Dissin, make the other stuff white noise. Okay?
No, I didn't say make a white. It's just when you have a lot of sounds coming together that becomes a mush, it's a white noise. And then the clear voice that you hear.
I understand, but I could pick this one out. Why is it, and I'll just prove to you that what you're saying is not true, and that you know it. You walk into a room, and I hope this is not going to go online. Maybe we could take this out. And there's a bunch of ladies talking. You can hear where your wife is.
Because they're not all.
I did a chavivile, right?
They're not all saying the same thing.
No. You hear. You just said you hear a mush of noise. That's what you said, not me. And yet, right away, you know where your wife is. How do you know where your wife is?
The voice.
So even though there's a chant of noise, but your wife's noise is clearly distinguishable to you because it's chaviv oleh. Mirza Shem. Right? That's what we're saying. That means we have the ability to filter it out. I'm just giving you an example. How is it that works? Don't know.
I'll give you a counter example. You're
One
somewhere outside.
second. Let's say you have a good counter example. You disagree with my example?
I don't agree with it, but it's not.
So I just say that's what it says.
Okay.
Maybe it's a counter example, and we'll answer. We could answer that. But just saying, the koreh is what it says over here. You have to hear each one individually, and we say you're able to do it if it's chaviv oleh. If it's not chaviv oleh, you will not give it the brain power necessary to make that differentiation, and you'll just hear the mixed voice. That's the concept that says here in the.
Chaviv oleh will push yourself to get to this point where you'll be able to hear.
Correct. Your attention will be peaked to that point. All right. Next halacha. All right. Tzarich lekroy kula mitoich haksav. You have to lein the whole thing from the ksav. V'imkara al peh lo yotza. All right. I would like to just share with you something which I was a bit busy with this week. A fascinating idea. He has an obligation to lein from the ksav. Do you have an obligation to hear from the ksav? But do you understand the question? No, I said this is a lumdisha question. He has obligation. He has to lein mitach ksav. That's halachah in person leining, and since it's shomea kohen, it's like also hearing it mitach ksav. Or the shomea doesn't have to have any connection at all to the text that's being read.
I see them for short basket in the regular way. Because they do have Torah, they all read it from their own chumash. Because once that guy's not reading from a ksav, who cares?
Exact opposite. That's you're not yetzer with him anything. You're doing everything by yourself.
But when we read from a ksav, they wouldn't do that. Meaning, because they're not being listening.
But you didn't discuss the halacha. Why can't you be yetzer from him if he's not leading from a ksav? That's the question that has to be discussed, not what they do doing. Why is it because he's not leading from a ksav, or you're not hearing from a ksav?
Well,
where's the problem? Right, that was the question.
A lot of people who listen to it are looking in a regular printed thing. They're not looking at ksav.
Okay.
So obviously, they're being yotze from his ksav.
Okay. Now I'd like to freeze the statement that you said, and now we're going to learn, and now we will. Now we're set to go. Okay. V'imkara al peh lo yatsa, v'tzarich shei ksuva kula lefanav lechatchila. You have to have the whole thing written in front of you lechatchila. Al b'diavad im hishmet hasefer be'emtza tevois. If they're missing some words in the middle, afilu ad chetziyoi korem koreh bal peh yatsa. And he leined those pieces that are mixing bal peh yatsa. By the way, just a fascinating question to share with you, just as a halachic brain teaser. In the Torah, there are kri and ksivs. When you're up to the kri, do you have to look inside to say the word that you don't read? What are you laughing about? So Moshe has a tshuva on this, and he says, like Mr. Fern, of course you have to. You're reading that differently.
It's like a code.
It's like Hashem in the Torah, right? It says Yud Kei Vav Kei, and you say Aleph Dalet. You think you can not look inside? That's called a ksiv. You just read it differently. So it's just a body. You have to see. You have to look inside when you're reading it. So even though, now the Havana of a created ksiv has totally different. It's not a replaced word. We are reading it differently. Okay, we have a superimposed reading. All right. Okay, let's see this Mishnah Berurah over here. Tzakla Zakula v'huli kuva v'dasav apoiskim shafilim chisem erakteva achas hayatzu v'tech ksav v'vur b'shas afilim kol pasuk Megillah ela shelo haysa Megillah ksher nami mikra baal peh v'lo yatsa. A chumash doesn't work. So shnei ksuva ritzay to learn the masha amar lo yatsa hainu im koreh baal peh es kol Megillah aruba avul koreh miksasa. If you did part of it, baal peh, then you yaitza. V'afilim haysa sibas kiyasa baal peh b'nei shasefer hishmid bo exatevas b'emtziosa ad chatzia. You're missing out some words in the middle, and you're reading those from memory. V'hochlach hakar l'kroisa baal peh. Av shelechatchila ein enoch l'kroisa Megillah shechaser tevas mikol makom b'diavad yaitza. Al b'diavad imelo Megillah acheres kol bo l'chatchila. Okay, you do ad chatzia. Ad chatzia v'chatzia yesh la'ayin if it's exactly chatzia. Avol hishmit the bazen nirach sefer choser. If you're missing the beginning of the end, so then the sefer it's apparent that it's choser. Ma she'en ken b'nishmat boy pasuk b'emtza eina ela k'sefer shalom sheyesh boy tos. Now this is a fascinating halacha, just from a practical point of view. Who's looking? I mean, it's nira k'sefer choser.
Itself.
What?
Itself.
Itself.
Meaning
I don't know.
it itself looks unfinished. If it's missing from the beginning, you're looking.
Why is there a difference between the beginning and the end and the middle? If it's in the middle, we say there's a tos. If it's in the beginning and the end, we call it choser.
It's like in the garage. It has to have a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
There's
It's
a
like
big
buying
hole.
yeah.
You have a big hole. You have your door. If you have missing at the top, missing at the bottom, so you have a door like that. If you have missing in the middle, you don't.
Sounds like a more sign, but it's not.
No, I think that parents is very close, but you didn't answer. You just said, I have another place where I could show you this, but you didn't explain anything. I accept your...
No, it's not because when it's on the top bottom, you think, okay, that's the kind of door it is. It's a short door or a door.
Why?
You know, like
that was the question.
Why?
It's the same thing over there. It's the same. We just moved the question from Megillah to door, but the same question.
Because it's
What?
That's where the beginning starts.
And therefore, that's an obvious place that a person would have it there. And therefore, if you obviously either didn't finish it or you didn't start it, because these are not places where things could be missing. Now, to push it by definition, it's like that. If I didn't finish it, if I have a Megillah that's missing the end, you don't say it's missing the end, you didn't finish. Right?
Or you didn't start.
You didn't start, but in the middle, obviously something went wrong, because in the middle is a place where a toast could happen, and beginning and end, since they're so pronounced, so you see it's missing the beginning and the end. If it's missing in the middle, the guy messed up in the middle. You don't mess up in the beginning and the end. That's the same thing with the door. Don't say I agree with you, but you just...
He's asking what is called the beginning and what's called the end. That's what you feel is asking.
He be may or from the.
I imagine the first psukim, first pasuk. I don't know if it means any different than that. Okay. 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 This is Sifkat Niral discusses V'afsha afilu b'choser ak pasuk rishon achor nami adin kain, which is his din. V'davkem hishmit in Yishalem, the v'hishmit in Yishalem nirke sefer choser. Again, if you're missing a whole piece, so then obviously there's something missing. 764. 7938. Next week Pesach. Not Pesach. We're learning Hilchos Pesach.